ka iana leo ka lai, ho'opili ana no ko imino. Una I tahala me tale hua, halele hua no ia ngata noe, o ta'u no ia no lia no hoi o taiti mai, iti mai no kako, no me ke aloha, aloha 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 aloha.
Thank you, Dr. Brady. That was moving. Really great. Fantastic job. Aloha kakahiaka, everyone. Want to thank especially President Emeritus Lasner for being here today. Thank you for giving of your time to attend the ceremony. So I want to thank all of you for being here today. Looking around the room, I really am living a dream. I've seen so many people who've been part of my journey, and I'm so grateful to share this day with all of you. When I graduated from JABSOM in 1986, along with Martina, who was my classmate, I never imagined one day I would stand here as the dean. But I did know this: the school changed my life. We're in the midst of doing a video on JABSOM's AAMC Spencer Foreman Community Engagement Award nomination, and it gave me time to reflect on all the ways our school is special and how decades ago it was just as special. It gave me a high-quality education, but it did it in a way that was unique to Hawaii. From that day forward, I hoped that somehow I could give back to this institution that had already given me so much. To be able to return years later as dean has truly been one of the greatest honors of my career. I especially want to thank my mentor, Dr. Ben Young, his lovely wife, Dee Dee, for bringing us together today and honoring me with this wonderful portrait. Ben, your friendship and guidance shaped my life in countless ways. You, along with Dr. Kikuni Blaisdell, were both instrumental in shaping me as a person and as a physician, and I'm eternally grateful to you. Equally as important, you helped me cultivate the special relationship with this place we are so privileged to call home. You showed me how to practice medicine in Hawaii and for Hawaii. The importance of service, humility, and always remembering that our work is ultimately about improving the lives of others. I was fortunate to serve on Dean Katzman's leadership team and later to step into the role in the early 2000s. The lessons I learned during that time stayed with me throughout my career, and they prepared me for the incredible privilege of returning once again to lead JABSOM. When I look at the portraits of the deans who have come before me, I think about the culture of Hawaii. We're taught to leave a place better than what we found it. And I think about how each of them accepted the responsibility of caring for this school and leaving it stronger than they found it. That has been my goal every day as dean. If in some small way I've helped advance JABSOM's mission, strengthened opportunities for our students and faculty, and positioned this school to better serve the people of Hawaii, then I will consider my time here a success. I want to end by thanking all of you. This is a team effort, and the success of the school is not possible without your hard work and dedication to our mission. It's been the honor of a lifetime to work alongside all of you and serve the institution that first believed in me. Mahalo nui loa.
Thank you, Sam. You know, can you hear me without the microphone? Okay. I am one of the luckiest guys around in Hawaii. And the painting of these portraits was one of the most fascinating experiences I've ever had. But I stand before you knowing that there's a unusual situation I'm in. Because of all the medical schools in America today, I'm the only one who knew every dean personally. Secondly, I'm the only one who presented an application to the admissions committee in 1981 because Joan Hoffman, the admissions committee chair, took a year off. And I went through the applications and I found one that stood out. I don't have this affinity towards lawyers, but this one did. His application said he had an MD from Georgetown, and I was so amazed. So I presented his application before the admissions committee, and sure enough, without any hesitation, the committee accepted him. Well, if you bear with me, I might sound a little bit tangential and circumstantial, but that's, hope you'll understand it's part of my getting to the ninth decade of my life. But anyway, how this came about was very unusual. I've always been interested in Hawaiian history. And I went to college in the mid-50s in Kentucky and Tennessee. And I had a chance to visit all the small battlefields in the South, some of them, but also became quite interested in the Battle of Gettysburg. So I found out Robert E. Lee made his invasion to the north and took with him Pickett from Georgia. One of the blocking points for him was this place called Cemetery Ridge at Gettysburg. He had to cross that Cemetery Ridge before he could get into the town of Gettysburg and really exploit his conquering of the north. But Cemetery Ridge was defended by 7 Union officers, and they were told to hold Cemetery Ridge at all costs. Robert E. Lee ordered Pickett to charge that hill. 6 of the 7 officers were killed. The one officer who remained alive rallied the Union forces and repelled Pickett's charge at that point. Who was that Union officer? His name was Samuel Armstrong, who was born and raised in Hawaii. He graduated from Punahou. Okay? So I began to have an interest in the Civil War, and I found out there were so many Hawaiians who fought in the Civil War on the side of the North and the South. So I gave talks around the country about Hawaiians in the Civil War. And the medical school in Hershey, Pennsylvania, Hershey, 5-cent candle bar, made millions of dollars on it. That's what supported that school. So they invited me to give a talk about Hawaiians in the Civil War. So I went there, talked about especially one Hawaiian by the name of Honolulu Pittman from Hilo. His mother was Kinooli. If you've been to Hilo, Kinooli Street is one of the main drags in Hilo. So I talked about him, and after my talk was over, they took me on a tour of Gettysburg, which is right next to Hershey Medical School, and they also took me on a tour of the medical school. And lo and behold, there were these amazing portraits of every dean they ever had and every chair they ever had. So I came home and I said, we gotta have that for Hawaii. So I sent a letter out to the early graduates of our medical school, and I collected quite a bit of money, partially because I'm half Pake. The money came in. And so that's how these portraits came about. But we had to abide by the protocol rules of the university. And of course, David Lasner wasn't president at the time, but we still had some strict rules at the university. We would go out for bids. We had to make sure that it was a committee that selected the proposal. So the first artist we selected was really talented. So we gave him the bid, but thank goodness for someone seated here in the first row, Julie Inoue. She inserted a clause into the proposal that we had the right to refuse the portraits and also to pay you what we thought the portraits were worth. Okay? So the proposal went out, The artist painted the pictures, and it came back. And lo and behold, we were stunned. They were beautiful. But every dean in that portrait by that first artist had a very brown complexion and looked Hawaiian. And much as I approve of the portrait looking Hawaiian, I thought this was not very appropriate. And so the committee turned it down, and thank goodness for Julie, we were able to get away from that. So the next artist then was the guy who painted the official portraits of John Burns and Ariyoshi. And his name was Linus Chow. So I was able to get photographs of these, and everyone is interesting. For example, who's the cutting of the first dean? He moved the medical school from, he was Dean of Stanford, and he was the one responsible for moving the medical school from downtown San Francisco all the way over to Palo Alto. Think of what that might have meant. Hard work. Getting the architects, raising the money, but he did it. Then he came here in 1965 to be our first dean. One of the things he did was to start a program after he reviewed all the applications of those who were rejected from medical school. Dean Cunning said, where are the Hawaiians? So he began a program that he could look at and invite 10 students to become his guests in medical school. That's how it started, the Dean's Guest Program. And the person who was in that first program was Nick Wong. He's a graduate of JABSOM, and I said 1990. A photograph of Windsor Cunning. And here's his son, John Cunning, who's an internist, retired here in Hawaii. And John told me, you know, I think they may have a photograph, a portrait of him at the Lane Library. And last I knew, that portrait was being stored in the library of the Stanford Medical School. So I got on the phone and called the dean at Stanford. You know, I heard that you folks have a portrait of our dean, Windsor Cunning. If you're not using that portrait, I heard it's being stored in the basement of your library. If you're not using that portrait, can we have it at our medical school? So he said, he'd get back to me, he said, that portrait was not his to give. It's indeed in the basement, but he sent me a photograph. And so he sent me a photograph, and this is the photograph I used to give to Linus Chow for this portrait. Every portrait has a little bit background story. Next dean was Terrence Rogers. He was the one responsible for helping us move from Leahi to the Biomed building. So you see behind him, it looks like a Union Jack, right? But it's not, it is the Union Jack, but it's part of the flag of Hawaii. I can give you a whole lecture about that flag of Hawaii. But anyway, it consists of the countries of Scotland, Ireland, and England. 1601, when it became unified, that became the Union Jack. But when Hawaii wanted to increase its trade with China, China would not allow them to have entry into Macau because they didn't have a recognizable flag. So King Kamehameha asked Alexander Adams in 1816 to design a flag for him. And that's the flag behind him, the flag of Hawaii. And that represents Hawaii because Terry Rogers was born and raised in England. He was born in a place called High Point. He was responsible for getting the first astronauts into space. He was the one, not me, that had the idea of starting the Imihola program. But he asked me to put together the program for the medical school. And that's Terry Rogers. So this background is very simple. He's holding probably living book, and this is Chris Branson. Chris Branson was funny. I asked him for a photograph, and he sent me photos of him. Looks like when he just graduated from medical school. Look, you can't use this for your big dean. So he was living in Waimea area at the time, so he drove down to Hilo and posed in person with Linus Chow for this portrait. And Linus chose it appropriately too, with that volume of the problem-based curriculum. Ed Chapman was vice president at Yale for health affairs, and he came to Hawaii in 1998. I remember him for some special reasons. One in particular was that I had an issue with some families on another island with the IRB. If you violate the IRB, the whole university system will come crumbling down with its research protocols in jeopardy. So when I explained to him what was happening, that there was a potential violation of IRB protocol, immediately Ed Chapman grasped what was happening. So he went to Gail, who was his secretary, and told her, Ben has to set up an appointment with me for some families on the neighbor island. Cancel all my appointments. The next day, he and I flew out to meet with the families. I have never seen anyone experiencing being a target of so many spears and arrows than Ed Chapman. But he put up with it, and he explained to the families what he would do to help resolve the issue. Ed Chapman did that. He canceled all of the appointments. He flew out with me. I will never forget that. In addition to that, he and Ben Cayetano met to discuss about the new campus. Ed Chapman was responsible for these grounds upon which we are today. He was responsible for this campus here in Kaka'ako. So that's Ed Chapman, and you see the logo behind. It was designed by Moving Casimiro, and it's very appropriate to it for Ed Chapman. And one favor he asked me was about 2000. He said, would I do him a favor and interview someone for the position of Associate Dean? Turns out it was Sam Shomaker who was applying for the Associate Dean, and I interviewed Sam at that time. And of course, Jairus Hedges is our fifth dean. Jairus was amazing in that he raised the status of our medical school to the top tier of medical schools in the nation for primary care. Few people really realize that, what an amazing task that was, and he was able to do that. In addition to that, he raised more money for the financial basis of this medical school than any other dean. And he's not even Chinese. So, after we did all that, I asked Sam if he would mind if I could raise some money to paint his portrait, because history is so important to me and the legacies of our early leaders. So he said, okay. So I raised the money, and I brought the artist in. This time it was not through the university. I could make the decision on my own and choose the artist. So the artist was Brook Kapūkuniahi Parker. If you think the name rings a bell, yes. He's a descendant of the Parker family. And if you look at the emblem of the seal of the Kingdom of Hawaii, you will see two twins. You see twins. On the left side is Kamalawa. On the right side is Kame'emoku. He's a direct descendant of Kamanawa. So he has strong lineage in the history of Hawaii. So Brook and I and Sam met, and it was amazing that Sam said he wanted his portrait to be very informal. And so that's what we did. We met with him, and that's the background of Sam's portrait. Sam, would you like to unveil it, or someone help unveil the portrait at this point? Malia? So let me tell you about that. All these are formal portraits. Suit, tie, and especially in the case of Jairus, he has all these lays on. So when Sam asked to have his portrait painted, he had a law shirt. Anyway, now we're there entwined with the Ilima blossom. But not only that, if you notice, the background is very different. Sam wanted to show that his interest was so strong with making sure that the underserved of Hawaii were taken care of. And so Brook Parker put the background of a rural landscape of Hawaii there. So here's the portrait of of Sam in a very informal way in the landscape of Hawaii. Oh, by the way, after these things were done, Linus passed away, and he gave me these, his wife gave me this book, so he also painted a portrait, as I said, of Burns and Ariyoshi. So it would be nice to have this on the coffee table right in front of the Burns portrait.
Okay.
Okay, well, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. And thank you for your support. It's just a wonderful honor and privilege for me to be working with all of you in this special place, and training position of first person. So, team effort. So thank you all for